How does a screenwriter know that they have a bad idea?
There aren't any bad ideas.
No bad ideas?
No.
Okay.
Again, King's Speech, there's no worse idea than that. Sopranos is if you just describe the idea, it's ridiculous. And certainly Breaking Bad, we've already talked about that. They're only bad stories. And those are stories where one thing doesn't really follow another, where they're not integrated. That is to say, where everything that happens does not palpably, measurably, identifiably move the story forward. That's all you have to do. But that's a tall order.
Okay, so it's not just an idea being bad or good, because even a good idea, what sounds great in theory, if the character, which is the focus of the story, what moves the story along, that is the story, right? The characters?
Yes, the characters, what they do and what they say, that is who they are, that is the characters, and it's also the story.
So let's say we have story A and story B. So story A is what sounds great in theory. It's a fascinating film, coming of age, against all odds. And then story B, which is very vanilla, maybe middle-class cul-de-sac neighborhood, insurance salesman with, no real quirks, just very basic.
Well, the greatest American play is written about its protagonist is an insurance salesman.
Sure.
Death of a salesman. Willie
Right.
Loman is an insurance salesman. About Schmidt, which is written and directed by our own Alexander Payne, a student here, former student of mine, and somebody we're really proud of here at UCLA. It's a great movie. I think that's a fabulous movie. Yeah. I think it's Nicholson's best work, and it's about an insurance salesman.
Right.
How about this for a movie? An insurance salesman retires.
But it's about his
again,
loneliness.
You're asking me, what's a good idea, what's a bad idea? I'm saying that there are no bad the good news is there are no bad ideas. Why is that good news? Because, well, I can't have a bad idea. The bad news is it doesn't matter. It's not about ideas. This is not about ideas. Ideas are not important in dramatic narratives. That's a mouthful to say and gets me a lot of criticism. I was at a scholarly conference. I was telling you that I rarely go to scholarly conferences. I go to a lot of writers' conferences, but it was at an academic scholarly conference. And someone said at a writing panel, this was out of town, this was up in Montana. He said, the problem with your program at UCLA, I really wanted to hear the rest of this, is that we encourage writers to write screenplays that are, get ready now because I've memorized this, too deeply encoded into the dominant narrative mode. I'll say it again. We encourage writers to write screenplays that are too deeply encoded into the dominant narrative mode. So I thought to myself, what in the world is that? And then I realized narrative is usually what they say when they mean story. I heard myself say to him, because I was very confused, I said, you mean story? And he said, yes. And I said to him, guilty. You're right, that's us. We're story hardliners. We think it's all about story. He said what we should be doing is inculcating into new writers the respect for the value of ideas. Sounds great, doesn't it? But I was saying, well, I'm so sorry, but we think ideas are worthless and useless. Again, it doesn't go over very well, but it's the truth. Any real writer who's a serious writer who has any kind of success will tell you it's not about the idea. And sometimes when they say, oh, I got a great idea, and they really believe that it is a great idea, it's not just an idea. In fact, it's a story that's all worked out. For example, with King's Speech, it's not just a guy who stutters and hires a speech therapist. It's the King of England. It's World War II. But all of this, as we start to describe it, it's no longer just the idea. Now you're telling the story. I'm going to say it again. It's so obvious that it's hard to see. Sometimes things are so obvious you just can't see them. And again, here it is. It's all about story. That's all it's about. It's about telling a good story.
Taking Boyhood again, I loved it, but you said it was good, but it didn't really move you maybe. What would you have done with it within those 3 hours?
I would have trimmed. I would have taken an hour out of it. I think there's a good movie in there somewhere. But I would have cut it. I mean, again, it's 2 hours and 45 minutes. There's no excuse for it. He's his own worst enemy. By the way, Linklater made one of my favorite movies. I think it's a very underappreciated movie. I don't know if you even know it. Bernie, with Jack Black. Jack Black, UCLA, go Bruins! He studied acting right here in this building.
Okay.
What a good actor he is. Bernie, I think, is just a work of genius. I hung on every frame. So I'm not blasting Richard Linklater.
Sure.
But I do think his problem is, he may not appreciate me saying this, although he's expansive enough that he actually might see some value in it, that he's too close to it. He worked on it for too many years. He wants to use all of this stuff that he shot. And that's a mistake. My brother-in-law, a different brother-in-law from the one I mentioned earlier, just came back from a vacation, traveling the world. He and his wife, they retired and they're traveling the world. And God bless them, I love them. I can't tell you how much I love them. But one thing they do is they take a lot of pictures with digital cameras. You know, you can shoot, you never run out of film. And he's a pretty good photographer, and he shoots a lot of you know, and he always sends it, but he sends the whole card. You know, like what about, they've just decided they're only going to send 100 pictures.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
just 100. I mean, you just get 600-800 pictures. I'll tell you, there's a photographer, DeWitt Jones, who shot for the National Geographic a lot of articles, and a very interesting statistic. The typical National Geographic article has 18 pictures in it. How many frames do they expose? How many pictures do they actually take from which they extract those 18? And we were discussing this at the Maui conference years ago, prior to digital. In other words, they were shooting film. With digital, it's exponentially more. So what's your guess, the average number of frames exposed, analog film frames exposed, from which 18 will be taken for a National Geographic article? How many pictures do you think they shoot?
I can't even imagine.
10,000.
Wow. For one article.
And what that means for writers is, get ready to throw stuff away. It's not about building up and constructing. It's about taking down and throwing away.
Right.
Writers, I like to tell writers, you need not merely to learn that you have to throw away, but you need to learn, this is what maturing is as a writer. Loving to throw away. You want to see the best thing that's ever happened to writing? I don't know if we can get this here. It's jammed. It's a computer keyboard, and I'll just tell you that if I could get it into the frame, I could point to this key. It says delete. That's the best thing that ever happened for writing. And you have to learn that when you highlight a bunch of stuff, you realize, I don't need this line of dialogue. I don't need this scene. And you highlight the whole thing, and then you hit delete, and the whole scene vanishes. If you get a good feeling out of that, then you're a mature writer. It'll take years and years to get to that. Most of the time, you're going to feel like, well, why are you going to feel that way? Well, because you took time to create that. You believed in it. And now you're throwing it away. What about the stuff you're writing now? Are you going to, how can you create anything more if you know that tomorrow you may throw this away? Yet that's what you have to do. And the truth is, tomorrow you will throw away probably not all of it, but just most of it. And if you do that, eventually you'll have a whole work. You know, you'll have a whole screenplay.